Hey, it's Jim Prevost with Embrace the Shake tonight. I'd like to apologize starting off this evening for being 30 minutes late. We were in an HOA meeting, and as you know, of any of you that belong to a homeowners association, often they get a little bit longer winded than necessary. But anyway, we're on tonight, and I'm going to talk about two things tonight specifically. I'm going to talk about pharmaceuticals. And I'm also going to talk about deep brain stimulation. I've talked about pharmaceuticals before, but with the nature of what's going on in our current political debates, and I don't believe in tying politics into my conversations, but I am going to provide some information that I've researched regarding pharmaceuticals and what can happen to those who depend on pharmaceuticals for their health. Should we change our health care plans any more than we already have? First of all, I'd like to premise my comments with the Affordable Health Care Act that was passed during President Obama's administration. Hey, thanks for everybody being on tonight. I appreciate your support. It's good to see everybody. To get back to the past administration, I know there's some of you that were significantly affected by the the Affordable Health Care Act. You lost your physicians, your insurance premiums went up, deductibles went up. Some of us lost our physicians. Some of us had to switch pharmacies. Personally, at that time, I was insured by the school system. Our premiums went up, and our medications changed tiers. There's tiers in medications: tier ones, two, and three, and four, so to speak. And each a certain group of drugs is a tier one drug, a tier two drug, tier three, and tier four, and that's based on significant products that are similar or like the generic market and how many manufacturers provide that availability of drug. Therefore, that affects the price. As the Affordable Health Care Act was implemented, it was implemented in phases. And as you know, it has caused havoc in the medical community. As a former practitioner of medicine, I can tell you that after the Affordable Health Care Act came on board, my malpractice insurance doubled. And I'd never been sued, never had any litigation, never had any problems, and still my medical malpractice insurance doubled. So that was one of the major reasons that I left athletic training, even though I was in the school system and protected by their liability. I just felt that carrying that premium was prohibitive, and I needed to move on to school administration. To move forward, like I said, I want to talk about the pharmaceuticals. I'm going to talk about deep brain stimulation, and I'm going to talk about some things that have been going on in my Parkinson's journey, not only with myself, but some of the things that my colleagues have experienced, and of course, I won't share their names. First of all, I want to get out to our sponsors tonight, and these are the folks, as I said before, that they do not remunerate us financially. They just support us, and if we ask a favor or we need something from them, they're always first to provide. First of all, I'd like to thank Whitebeard Canine. As you know, that's Howard and Lisa Young. They train the canines for the law enforcement agencies in Cleveland County, Shelby City. In addition to that, Howard is responsible for the major portion of training that Moose has received. In addition to what he does there with my dog and the canines from the law enforcement agencies, Howard is nationally renowned and has been on Working Dog Radio, a podcast. So follow Whitebeard Canine on Facebook and follow Whitebeard Canine on all your social medias. Rescue 22 is where Moose came from. I always sing their praises. Rescue 22 with Angela Connor, Eric Innes, former Army Ranger, and John Devine. a former Navy SEAL. They began this foundation, and the intention is to provide service dogs for veterans with disabilities. And that's not only PTS, but that's also combat-related physical disabilities as well, combat-related and emotional. So let's give them a shout out. You can follow them on Facebook. They also have their own website, corporate website, and that's Rescue 22 Foundation. 100% of their funds goes into the acquisition of animals and dogs and their training. So I'm a testament to that. The funds that were raised for Moose went to Rescue 22 and paid for Moose, and then the funds that we raised for Biggie, for Maddie Rose, 100% of those funds have gone for the training and boarding of Biggie. I'd like to thank Magic City Canine out of Florida. That's Dee Hout, and she is at Magic City Canine. She's also at Applause Your Paws. Dee trains at her own facility, the Applause Your Paws, and then she has her prison training facility, which is called Magic City Canine, where she works with inmates to give them an occupation, a vocation that will transition them from incarceration back into the civilian world, and Dee does a phenomenal job there. So Magic City Canine, you can follow on Facebook. Visit Dee's Facebook page. She has wonderful pictures and testimonies from the inmates on what they've gained by being a part of a program. Of course, Broad River Hemp on 413 South Lafayette Street here in Shelby provides veterans a 20% discount on their hemp products. I am a user of CBD for pain management and sleep, and I can attest to the fact of their professionalism. They'll interview you before you purchase. They like to know a lot about you. They don't get personal, and they try to to provide you a product that will facilitate your personal needs for the use that you need for sleep or pain management or anxiety issues. They're well-versed, well-qualified, well-trained to help you. So that is Broad River Hemp at 413 South Lafayette Street. In addition to that, I'd like to thank Brian Jones at Strike Fit on West Warren Street, 212 West Warren. Strike Fit is where we do our boxing classes on Wednesdays and Friday nights. Wednesday nights and Friday afternoons at 12 o'clock. If it wasn't for Brian and Jessica there at Strike Fit, we wouldn't have a place to go. As you know, I have a long-term relationship with Brian. He's not only my martial arts teacher, but I also taught him as well. Nice exchange relationship, and Jessica was one of my students. And they do a wonderful job in their martial arts program for kids and adults, protection service training. So again, visit Strike Fit on their page. You can also stop by at 212 West Warren Street most evenings and meet Brian and Jessica, and they can really give you a wonderful tour of their facility and what services they offer. And then Moose wanted me to give you all a shout out tonight, and that's from Moose the Service Dog. I wants to say hello, and also the group on Wednesday evening and Friday at noon, the Embrace the Shake Boxers. We call ourselves the PD Fighters. And so they wish everybody a hello tonight, and we're going to go ahead and move on to my next comment. During the week, I made a Facebook post about pharmaceuticals and the Medicare for All plan. And as you notice that the folks that are currently on the debate stage all wish to provide public or public-based health care. That means everybody has the right to health care. That's their platform, that it is a constitutional right. Even though they can't cite the Constitution on that, where it says that in the Constitution, I'm sure they can bring some parallels in to do that. But I want to talk about the reality of socializing medicine. There are a lot of positives of socialized medicine. I have some Canadian students in my classes, and they are very upfront about the benefits in comparison to U.S. healthcare. And they're also very honest about some of the drawbacks. If you have a familiar sense of socialized healthcare, the VA system is a socialized healthcare to a certain demographic of the population, society. Medicaid is a form of socialized medicine because it's supplemented by the government and is paid for by taxes. There's Medicare, which is a form of socialized medicine that I'll be eligible for in 2 years. Those are the aspects that are already offered. So that's why they use the model Medicare for all, so to speak, because everybody's familiar with Medicare. You turn 65, excuse me, turn 65 and you become eligible. But here's what I'm going to say, and I'm going to stick to pharmaceuticals only. I researched this for a couple days, and I'm referring to the figures that I posted on my personal Facebook page, and then I just shared it with the Embrace the Shake page. And Embrace the Shake's on Twitter, is on Instagram. We are now on YouTube as well. We have a YouTube channel. And then, of course, we have Facebook. So we're trying to get out there in social media land. First of all, I'd like you to see this. These are my Parkinson's medications. And you're probably saying, well, that's a lot of medication in this. Currently, I take eight of these medications are active, and the other ones are not active, but I still have to have them. And I'll provide you an example. Because of the gastroparesis that is produced by the medications I take, which means the inability to move fecal matter, I have to take a medication at times when I become constipated so I can avert going to the emergency room again so I don't become septic. The problem that I'm having right now is that I take these 8 medications haphazardly, meaning that I'm not taking them, all of them, like I'm supposed to, because they make me vomit. And I have a terrible gastric cramping, and it's all medication induced. And what that's telling me, and my doctors that take care of me, that I'm reaching the inroads of my medication tolerance, that they're going to have to play pick and choose, and they're going to have to try something else. As you know, Parkinson's medications and Parkinson's disease is tied in with the gut. We've talked about that on class, in our Facebook live cast. But I would like to say this. I do what I can to take them, but going 3 months with constant abdominal pain, constant cramping, constant constipation, and the inability to eat and stay bloated. So like right now I weigh 203 today, but my waist and my belly measure 44 because I'm so bloated from the medication, which is a gastric reaction. So I take 8 of these medications actively. And then when the pain gets so bad that I can't sleep at night for days in a row, then I have to take a medication that's listed as a narcotic. And it's an opioid. I can't stand taking opioids because the way it makes me feel. So I take just one. And I just get by the day there. Another thing is that with the bradykinesia I take a couple of medications that help me so I don't slow down as quickly as far as my movements. But those are the medications that are the criminals in my constant nausea and cramping and upset stomach issues. So I have stopped taking those, And the ability to sit still and the ability to not have those tremors inside, the internal tremors I have, is significantly magnified. So if you were around me today and somewhat yesterday, I would be, how would I say, kind of like all over the place, Marianne? Kind of like edgy, all over the place, Marianne, shaking her head, yeah. Edgy, okay? And I'm not edgy at Marianne because I know better than that, but I'm edgy at myself because I'm going through this. And I'm going to put these down, okay? So I want you to understand that right there, the 8 active medications that I'm taking, that if I didn't have any insurance at all and I used 5 of the prescription cards that you can get like from GoodRx and others that are freebies, Jim Prevost would be paying $6,167 a month to fight Parkinson's disease. And I'll be transparent, my retirement is not $6,167 a month. So what I would have to do is to determine what I could take and afford being on a retirement income, full retirement income effective May. Currently, because I have 2 health plans, I have Veterans Advantage healthcare, and I have Blue Cross and Blue Shield from the state of North Carolina, being a retired educator, using no prescription cards at all. I only pay $263 a month. So God bless having health insurance and from your employer even into your retirement years. And like I said, I'm going to set this down. Here's what scares me, okay? And it doesn't scare me in a sense of having fear. It's a sense of scaring, like, what are you going to do to my friends, and what are you going to do to my folks, my close friends that have Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and MS? If this were to pass, and I don't think it'll make it through the Senate, let alone the House, but if you have socialized medical care through the entire United States, they're going to have to limit something. And they're going to limit the pharmaceuticals because pharmaceuticals are out of hand anyway. But now I'm going to have to pay $879 a month and use 5 prescription cards a month from GoodRx or whatever companies I use. But I want you to understand how that works. So for example, take Zymbalta for pain, okay? 24/7 pain. Some people say that's an antidepressant, it's an anxiety drug. Well, for Parkies, it's normally used for pain management, especially for restless legs, okay, or internal tremors, all right? Like this month, you can get it for free if you use that card if you don't have any insurance. But next month, maybe you won't be able to get it for free. Let me give you an example. There's a drug that I used to take that's on hold right now. It's called Rytary. Rytary costs $3,384 a month, okay, with a free RX card, okay, or a card from a prescription coupon company, and it just happens to be GoodRx. It's $879 this month. That is not available next month. The cheapest one for next month is $1,224. So let's say that I had to take it and I couldn't afford it, then I just go without it, and then I just go right down the tube, so to speak. So I'm fortunate. They can stop, and they can stop let me go back here. If they go to Medicare for All or any socialized health plan, they essentially can close those other health plans down if they don't want to comply being a provider associated with that socialized health care. They can shut them down. So now we got unemployment, okay? And they're going to hire folks in the government that don't know how to run insurance companies. I mean, look how good Medicaid, Medicare, TRICARE, and the federal healthcare system is run. And by the way, the Cadillac healthcare is the folks in Congress and the folks in Senate. They have a Cadillac healthcare plan, and they do not have to be associated with the Medicare for All, and they don't have to be associated with the Affordable Health Care Act. So they took care of themselves. And by the way, you can check that out on their congressional sites because they have to be transparent. So from $6,167 a month to with no health care and 5 coupons a month to paying $263 now, if they go to that socialized model under the Bernie plan and under the Warren plan and the other folks that are endorsing free medical care, I would go to $879 out of my pocket per month, which means it triples essentially. So that's what's going on with the pharmaceuticals. So before you go to the ballot box, take a look at everything before you vote. So my suggestion to you is if you don't understand what I just got done talking about, and that kind of came across wrong, if you have any questions about what I was talking about with insurance, because I know I start rambling when I speed talk because I can't control it. Please send me an email and I'll fire you a blast back and kind of clear up the cloud I may have caused. But the Medicare for All, I don't think it'll happen. But a lot of people didn't think the Affordable Health Care Act would pass. And remember what Speaker Pelosi said, we have to pass it in order to know what's in it. I think as informed voters, we need to know what we're voting for before we vote for it. Okay. And the next thing to move on, and I know I haven't done my shout outs tonight. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it under 45 minutes and respect your time because I'm late tonight. I want to talk about deep brain stimulation. And the reason I'm talking about that is that anybody with Parkinson's disease is a candidate for deep brain stimulation. It's just later on as their Parkinson's progresses, are they a very good candidate? Well, I'll be going to Duke University Medical Center on the 12th of March. My family and I will be going there and visiting with the Dr. Tyler Mitchell, who is a neurologist who specializes in medication adjustments and specializes in deep brain stimulation. And another good thing about going to Duke University, is that they do their deep brain stimulation under anesthesia, so the patient does not have to be awake, so to speak, during the surgery, although they do conscious sedation. But the patient in this situation will be completely under anesthesia, unconscious sedation, and everything that is done to the patient is done through an active MRI. So here's the scenario. We meet with Dr. Mitchell, and he does an interview with me and my family, and then he decides that I might be a candidate. And so he will send me I have to go to a neuropsychologist to sit down and do about a 4-hour block of testing to find out what my cognition level is. I will also have to see a speech therapist to have a modified barium swallow done to see what my swallowing, capacities are. And you're seeing Parkinson's yawning right now because I'm talking too much and not getting enough oxygen because one side of the throat's not working correctly. And then I have to see a psychiatrist as well, apparently. And then all these folks will sit down and make a decision to whether or not I'm a viable candidate. So let's move forward. They say that you have to have Parkinson's at least 4 years. I'm rolling in, I'm on year 3, but I have extenuating circumstances to where my time has to be moved up because I don't have that time to wait another year to see what goes on because I meet the criteria of I can't tolerate my medications very well. So that kind of moves things up. So, we all decide that we do the deep brain stimulation. So what they will do is under anesthesia, they will place a halo on my head, and it has pins that go into your head, and it stabilizes your frame. It's called a frame, and this frame has all these goniometry, all these geometric angles on it. And what they do is they take a picture of your brain with the MRI, and they do target interdiction by intersection. And for all you former guys out there in the military and ladies, you understand about intersection resection that we learn about in land navigation. Well, they do the same thing in your head. And they do this and they guide this by an MRI. And then what they do under anesthesia after that, they get all their vectors and they put all this programming into this frame, and the surgeon will do a burr hole on the top of my head, either one or two burr holes, and get down through the subdura into the brain matter. And then they adjust the frame a certain way, and that puts the target in line. And they will put a cannula about the size of a human hair into your brain and take it down into the area where they need it to go. And this is being mapped and controlled by MRI. So once they get it where they need it, then they take a wire, which is a transmission wire, and they insert it through the cannula that has a hole in it, and they run that wire down to the portion of the brain that they need it to connect to. At the same time, they make a pocket, okay? They make a pocket in your head, and that's where the wires will be stored and then run down through your neck and into your chest underneath your collarbone. Okay? Which I'll talk about, that's a part 2 of the surgery. And then once they get the wires in, then they send electrical impulse for those wires, and they can watch the brain be stimulated through the MRI. So they have real-time stimulation. Okay? The old method, or still the current method too, is to have you awake and have you do finger movements and wrist and hand movements and talk and do all these things while you're awake during the brain surgery. I apologize again for my yawning. As you know, I can't control that. So then, after that procedure is done and they close your brain back up and they fill the hole, so to speak, and the wires are run, you're taken to the recovery room, and then you go to a neuroscience intensive care unit, and a lot of times you'll spend the night there. Sometimes they'll discharge you the same day. I would say that living 4 hours or 3 hours from Duke, if I were to have that done, they wouldn't say, hey, Mary Ann, throw Jim in the back of the exploder and let's go back to Shelby. I'm sure they'd keep me overnight to make sure I'm super duper paratrooper here and I can go home. Then after I get home and recover for a period of time, like for about 10 days, I go back for another visit and they check me out. And they take the staples or sutures out of my head. And then I'll have a second procedure where they put this impulse generator. It's about this big, okay, like a mouse. It's very thin, okay? And they would put it in your chest, much like a pacemaker apparatus, a defibrillator, and a pacemaker monitor. And what this does is it connects to the brain, and they can program the impulse generator to send the message to the brain to do what dopamine doesn't do, because I don't have a good reserve of dopamine. They'll adjust it accordingly to fit my specific needs. Now, what it reports that it does is that there is a 77% rate of reduction in medications for folks that have deep brain stimulators. So just think all these pills that I have here, I can take 77% of them out. Okay, that's just what's been reported across the United States with these studies. I could take 77% of those out and take just a limited medication. Another thing is the delivery system can change, and I might go on a patch, or I might go an inhaler or an injectable. Therefore, my gut isn't the primary breakdown. Okay? Another positive of the deep brain stimulator is that 95% of the people that had that done had a 95% satisfaction rate, that their lives had improved notably. And I've talked to some people about this that have had it from different parts of the United States, because the Parkinson Network is very close. And if you'll go on YouTube, there's a gentleman from New York State that had a deep brain stimulator put in, and he was riding his bike again. Used to ride his bike for fitness, and he's only taken one medication. He used to take 11. And I know there's bad sides to it. The negative side is this, is it could change my personality. It could harm my memory. It can change my speech a little bit. And there's always a chance of infection. Anytime that you work on the brain, there's always a chance of a stroke. So you got to roll the dice, okay? And I'm just going to be straightforward with this. I'm tired of it. I've only been dealing with it for 3 years, and I'm tired, and I'm burned out. I'm worn out, and we got to step into something big here. We got to roll the dice. And if the doctor says to me that, no, Jim, you're not a good candidate now, then I'm going to challenge him. I know a little bit about medicine. He knows a lot, and I know a little bit. And I'm going to ask him, what would you do if this was a family member? What would you do if this was your spouse? What would you do if this was you? Okay? We got to push the envelope on this one. And, in order to stay in the fight, you need all the weaponry you can get to stay in the fight effectively. And that's what we're going to do. That's what Prevosts do. So that's a little bit about deep brain stimulators. How long does it last? Well, I'm going to be a smart ass about that until it quits. And then once it quits, they can put another one in. And they can put another pulse generator in. They can take those leads and take them out, and they can put new leads in. Now, taking them out, does it cause brain damage? Yeah, it causes some scarring, but that's okay. That's acceptable, anything to maintain health, within reason. And if he says, no, you're not a good candidate because the psychosocial testing that you took, the neuroscience psychometric testing says that you have a memory deficit that's within this parameter, and there's a risk that it would deteriorate your memory. I can understand that. It's a deteriorate, your speech is already compromised. There's a possibility it might paralyze that other side and you could lose your ability to speak. Some people would say that's great that he's losing his ability to speak because he talks too much. But others, my family might want to hear my words again. I mean, you think about it, and I know this is a bit morbid, but how many of you all out there have lost your parents and would like to spend 5 minutes with them and hear their voice again? It had also, a possibility of a stroke. Should I have a stroke? Should Marianne be saddled with that and the rest of my family? So those are some things to consider, but sometimes we just have to roll the dice. Are those negotiable? Are those low risk? Yes, but they're also part of surgery. I mean, you can have a foot surgery to repair a fracture, and you can have a stroke on the table. So, I don't really worry about that at all. My whole idea is to get better, because right now, some people say, well, you don't look like you have Parkinson's. Come to 224 TR Harris Drive, spend a day, and you'll see it. And then come to boxing with us on Wednesday nights, and then come at Friday afternoons, and you are welcome to come, and you'll see all 5 stages of Parkinson's with my friends. So I'm going to close it out. Thank you for allowing me to, let's say, nonstop talk and ramble. Again, I apologize for not calling everybody out, but all of you that came on tonight, thank you so much because your support means so much to our family, to me personally, and to the Prevost family, all of us, and keep us in your prayers. Let's remember when we go to the voting booth to be an informed voter because you know your livelihood is affected by parliamentary policy. Please shout out to the folks that I mentioned on our sponsors tonight because they do amazing things for folks more than myself. I'd like to say thank you to keep our law enforcement, EMS, and fire. You know, they always come to us whenever called, and they're heroes in my mind. Let's keep our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, and coasties as well, who are on our soil and foreign soil, keeping us safe at night. Thanks again for being on tonight with me. Always remember, embrace the shake. Y'all have a great evening. Take care.